Let's dive into a massive paradox, a real head-scratcher. How did one single species, with basically one kind of brain, manage to create thousands of profoundly different cultures and languages? Well, the answer, it turns out, lies in this powerful, hidden engine that has been shaping us for hundreds of thousands of years.
Okay, let's really break this down. I mean, modern science is pretty clear on this. The fundamental architecture of the human brain is universal. Biologically, we are all running the same basic hardware. So, how on earth do you explain the wild, incredible diversity of over 7,000 languages spoken today? And here's the kicker, right? Any child, doesn't matter if they're born in Tokyo, the Amazon, or Paris, has this innate ability to become a perfect native speaker of whatever language they're exposed to. So that tells us something huge. Our brains aren't pre-programmed for, say, English or Mandarin. They're programmed for language itself. So what gives? The solution to this whole puzzle isn't found by just looking deeper and deeper inside our skulls. The theory we're exploring today suggests the answer is actually outside, in the external world, in the relentless, tough problems our ancestors had to face, and the totally ingenious ways they figured out how to solve them. You know, the story of our evolution is really a story about survival under immense pressure. The framework we're going to be using here calls this pressure strain, and strain is everything. It's both the main challenge we faced and the creative spark behind our entire development. So what exactly is strain? Well, think of it as any persistent problem that absolutely demands a solution. It's that constant friction between what a community needs to survive and what their environment is actually giving them. And it's not just a bad thing. It's kind of like the sandpaper that shaped our skills and ultimately our minds. And listen, these strains were everywhere. Just try to imagine it for a second. You're facing brutal ice age winters, you're competing with giant cave bears for a dry place to sleep, you're trying desperately to remember which plants will kill you and which ones are food, not to mention navigating the tricky social politics of your own small group. These were not abstract problems. They were daily, life-or-death challenges. So, in response, humans developed this really powerful feedback loop. You face a strain, you develop a skill to handle it, you invent a language tool to teach and share that skill, and then, over generations, that whole process actually shapes how you think. Let's start by looking at that first big step, developing skills. Before we could ever talk our way out of problems, we had to literally build our way out of them. Physical skills and early technologies were humanity's first real line of defense against the constant strains of the world. What's so amazing is how a single skill could solve multiple problems at once. I mean, take fire. It didn't just give you warmth. It made food way easier to digest. That reduces physiological strain. And it kept hungry predators away, which reduces security strain. It's like every new skill freed up a little bit of brain power for the next big challenge. It's the exact same principle here. Building a simple shelter or figuring out how to make clothing wasn't just about being comfortable. These were life-saving technologies that directly fought back against the strain of a harsh climate, allowing humans to survive and even thrive in places that would have otherwise been deadly. And here's a crucial point. Skills weren't just about mastering the physical world. Developing social skills, things like how to coordinate a hunt or just basic rules for sharing, was absolutely essential for reducing the internal strains of living in a group and the external strain of actually finding enough food to feed everyone. But the single most powerful, game-changing tool we ever invented for reducing strain was, without a doubt, language. It's the technology that let us solve problems not just with our hands, but with our collective minds. This quote from the source material just nails it perfectly. Biology gave us the physical ability to make sounds and process speech. That's the hardware. But it was culture, responding to very specific local strains, that actually wrote the software. The thousands of different languages we see all over the world today. So you can think of language as a precision toolkit. If you need to predict the weather to survive, you develop a rich vocabulary for clouds and seasons. Need to coordinate a hunt? You invent pronouns like you and us, and simple commands. Need to remember a complex migration route? You offload that memory into a story. See? Every little feature of language solves a specific cognitive problem. It's also really important to get our heads around the timeline here. Spoken language is ancient. It emerged slowly over tens and tens of thousands of years. Writing, on the other hand, is a much more recent invention. And just look at this.
It popped up independently in different parts of the world. That's a classic example of different cultures facing similar strains, like how to manage complex information, and inventing a very similar solution. Okay, so let's bring this all back to that big paradox from the beginning. How does one universal brain create thousands of different linguistic worlds? Well, the model we've been walking through offers a really powerful analogy to explain it.
Let's really dig into this. Think of the human brain as the hardware. It's the physical machine, and it's remarkably similar for every single one of us. Culture and language, that's the software. They're the programs written over millennia to solve the very specific strain problems of a particular place and time. So every baby is born with the universal hardware, completely ready to download whatever local software it happens to be exposed to.
Let's make this real with a concrete example. Okay, case study 1. I saved Europe. The dominant strains there were pretty obvious: extreme, brutal cold and huge predators. So the cultural software that evolved there included amazing skills for making advanced clothing, clever techniques for storing food through long winters, and of course, the language you'd need to describe and navigate vast, icy landscapes. Now, for contrast, let's jump across the globe to the Jomon people of ancient Japan. Their big strains weren't ice and bears. They were earthquakes, tsunamis, and super dense forests. So what did their cultural software package look like? It included skills like building earthquake-resistant pit houses, weaving sophisticated fishing nets, and managing forest resources. Different strains, totally different software.
And yet, and this is the amazing part, underneath all that beautiful, incredible diversity, our core cognitive hardware is over 99% consistent across all human populations. Studies on fundamental tasks like logic, our sense of causality, and basic problem solving show that our shared operating system is basically the same.
So here's the really crucial takeaway from all this. When we misunderstand someone from another culture, it's almost never because their brain works differently from ours. It's because our cultural software packages are running on different assumptions, different concepts shaped by a totally unique history of solving a unique set of problems. We're not arguing about the words themselves. We're talking past the deep concepts they represent. And this leaves us with a fascinating and maybe even a little unsettling final question. The software running in our heads was written to solve ancient problems: predators, ice ages, finding food. But today, we face entirely new strains. Things like information overload, the strange dynamics of social media, global connectivity. So what new skills, what new language, and ultimately, what new ways of thinking are we evolving right now to cope with the pressures of our modern world?